Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode with Humble Devs. Okay, so today is going to be a bit different. I'm doing this additional stream, other than the normal stream that comes a bit later in the day. Also, the stream that I'll do later today will be longer than normal, and we'll start a bit earlier so that we can cover more because I don't want to spend too much time just going through the process of like setting up your project, even though that is super important. But a lot of that you could also do in your own time during the week, whenever you have a bit of time that you can manage to plan something for yourself. All right. So for 9 week episode 1, right? Because I want to spend the next 2 weeks actually getting everything configured, the database, the like sign up for the users, getting to publishing everything online, which will still require a lot of work. So uh, today I really want to focus on starting to build the application, and I'll recap where we got to last week and where we stopped, and then we'll continue from there because I think it's important to like take you through the entire journey of using the BMAD method, because it will also help you because there are like more like systems like this now, right? So just give me 1 second. So if I go to my desktop very quickly, um, yeah, that's fine. Make this a bit wider. Yeah, perfect. So, where did we stop last week? So last week we got to um, the end of the chat with the UX expert. So we kind of stopped here actually before it gave me this response. So it was like, okay, should we like generate? Should I generate a prompt for you that you can use on like Lovable or Bolt Zero or like Bolt or V0 or something like that? And I was like, yes, great. And that's when our utilization was fully maxed out, so we could not get that prompt to generate, right? Which isn't really a huge deal because I could also easily just describe my own application to one of these platforms, and it would still build the front end for me just fine. So what I did is I actually signed up to CoPilot, like Premium or Pro, or however you want to call it, because it's really affordable. To be honest, I mean, I've subscribed to Windsurf now for a number of months, and I can show you that here as well. Just give me a second. Uh, so if we go back here, so I subscribed. I also didn't know, to be honest, that there is like a whole online Copilot thing that also integrates with your GitHub, of course, logically speaking. But okay, this was new to me. And you do get 30 days free trial. So when you sign up, you don't pay until 30 days or like a month after you actually signed up. So if you want to continue your build without paying anything specifically, or at least directly, you could sign up for GitHub Copilot Pro. And if you really don't want to pay the 10 USD, then you can of course cancel your subscription within the 30 days and you will not be charged. However, to be honest, it is really decent value. We already looked at um, the pricing. Let me do this somewhere else because otherwise it will. I don't want it to show uh, like signed up pricing or something like that. So if we go to Cursor, for example, this is one of the problems that I had with the Cursor pricing to start with, because I will subscribe to Cursor in the beginning and then I switched to Windsurf. And the reason for that is that for the Pro, you pay 20 USD a month. Again, this is not like expensive. But they don't tell you how many requests you get, right? So if we look at GitHub Copilot, for example. So if we look at the pricing for GitHub Copilot, um, actually, no, not here, not the Teams one. So we just scroll down here. It's a bit confusing. So for individuals, you pay 10 USD a month. This is for the Pro, and then you have the Pro Plus if you like need more, or you need the very expensive AI models that only come with like their own dedicated subscription, usually speaking. But if you're building, I mean, it depends, right? So if you really want to use the best and like the AI models or like the LLM models with the highest context window, just like we spoke about before, like the amount of memory you have for that session, that the AI can look into your code and remember most of it, and like, you know, be better in like changing your code without breaking it. You could like go this route, but if we go to Cursor, for example, it gives you basically all of them. Not like, yes, all of them, but it has limited use, and it doesn't tell you upfront what is that use. So if we go to GitHub Copilot, it says, okay, you basically have premium requests, right? So these are like the fast ones and whatnot, and it says that these are 6 times more than you get with the free version, right? But outside of that, you could still continue to use it within your subscription if you're willing to give the AI model more time to respond. So it will not be fast, or at least as fast as the premium ones, but this is still going to be quite a lot of use for anyone who's building a small app, right? If you're going to be building a big application, and I mean, it would be worth spending the for the Pro Plus. But for Cursor, what ends up happening is that every request might use a number of tokens. So not every request will just use one token. No, you might have a request where it thinks, okay, this one will cost you now 6 tokens. So this became like very kind of um, the usage is very irregular. You can't now know upfront what you will get. And if we look at Windsurf, for their pricing, it was very straightforward, and that's the reason for me why I switched to it. So it's cheaper by $5 a month, but also it tells you, okay, you have 500 prompts. Easy, right? So it's like you just have 500 prompts. It doesn't matter how long, how complex, or how short your prompt is. You get 500 done. And just like Cursor, so when you sign up, there are certain like models that will cost you more, like we also have with GitHub Copilot. So if we go here, you see that there's a cost. So every one of them will cost me 1 credit for each prompt or request. But there might be other models. Okay, so I can add my own. That's fine. But there might be other models that are like more expensive, which I have in Windsurf that I could show you, which will cost you like 2 or maybe more credits for every request, right? So this is a kind of good point of comparison. And I wonder, is there, so if we look at here, for example, okay, it just tells you to provide the key. Okay, I did expect to see more models here, to be very honest. So we have only the GPT-5 mini in here, and we have O3 mini. Okay, so okay, this is quite limited, but okay, maybe something to look into in a bit. Because Windsurf does give you more. So if I will, let me just load it up very quickly. Yeah, just to give you a bit of a comparison. So that's fine. That's fine. Trusted this. Let me go back to my. Okay, so back to the desktop. So Windsurf, you have here more premium models available to you just as a member for like the 15 USD a month. So you do get the GPT-5, like all versions, so you can see all of them, and then you can use you basically use whatever you want. So there is, like, as you can see, a very long list of models that we have at our disposal. Even the like Claude Opus 4.1. But as you can see, these will cost you a lot of tokens. So you're saying 20 tokens for every single request instead of 1 or 2, right? So if we would use Gemini 2.5 Pro, which we've been using with Copilot, this is just 1 credit. GPT 4.1, GPT-5 as well. So GPT-5 has different levels. So you have GPT-5 a high reasoning. So this one will think a lot about your request, and takes 2 tokens. You have low reasoning, so this one will be much faster, but it will then like come to its decision with like much fewer context points, which is only half a credit. So if you're only using this one, you have basically 1,000 credits that you can use. But again, if you're doing tasks that would require your model to think a lot, or at least think deliberately about your request first, then it's better to use something like the medium one, right? It's not too much thinking, it's not too little, it's like, medium. But you have Codex, and Codex is specifically for coding, which is new. It was just introduced, I think, a week ago after our episode, and this one is completely free at the moment. So you don't even use credits when you use it, and it's the best for writing code. So if I would continue, for example, building with Windsurf instead of CoPilot, and I'm subscribed, I might as well just use this one and already have quality code being generated at first try. Grok was also introduced in here. This is also very, very new. So as you can see, you have a lot more for the additional money that you buy. So for me, looking at this now, at all of these options, and you have here SWE1, which is a model that Windsurf themselves created. And it's comparable to, for example, Lots on it 3.7 in terms of like coding abilities, but it's not meant only for coding. So it's meant for like general thinking tasks and general like software engineering outside of just writing code. So yeah, just wanted to give you a point of comparison between the two, and Cursor will give you similar like models that are available to you. So you will also have many to choose from. Okay, I saw also DeepSeek is in here, which is completely free. Again, amazing stuff. So yeah, you do really get quite a lot for your money for the 15 USD that you're paying for Windsurf. For me, I found it to be honest quite good to work with in Windsurf. I've not had any issues. Again, I came from Cursor to Windsurf. I can't say that I've ever faced any issues where I thought, I'm going back to Cursor. Not at all. There were a few bugs in the beginning when I started using it, but these were fixed like within a week. So I can't say that I've had much in terms of difficulty or any issues with it. And it is VS Code, right? So at the end of the day, we've been using VS Code for like this entire period, and as you can see, this is just VS Code. It has the same structure, the same like folder thingies and same options. So it is still VS Code, but this is different, right? So the Windsurf plugin that is built into here instead of CoPilot, that is the big difference. It has different interactions. It has different shortcuts to like give it context or add a file or something like that, but it works mostly the same, right? So you can make your own decision whether you want to pay or don't want to pay. If you want to keep your cost as minimal as possible and that is your target, then I would say sign up for the $10 with GitHub Copilot Pro, finish your project and see how it goes. Other than that, for me personally, the best cost to like options and model ratio and whatever, for me personally, I find this just to be Windsurf. As you can see, like as I've browsed now, you have many options at your disposal, and I don't think there is a better deal at the moment for it. There are like you can like go to like DeepSeek or like any of these like new Chinese LLM models and sign up, and it will cost you like $5 or $3 or something like that. But yeah, this is like a complete experience out of the box. You don't need to think about it, and it gives you all of these options. So you're not subscribing to just one model, because I could just go to ChatGPT or like Claude and just subscribe to them specifically. But again, you don't have any other option, right? And for me, funny enough, I tried in my free time to build the same project that we were building with Humble Devs up to this point, using GPT-5 Medium. And the experience was not great, to be very honest, with BMAD-Method. And it's not like, how do I put it? It was thinking too much. And I tried like the lower thinking one, but it wasn't as clear. And I'll tell you how exactly. So if we go back to just GitHub, also on desktop, right? Yeah, okay. So on GitHub, yes. when I give it a prompt, right? So it reads the persona, right? And it comes with like this very like easy to understand detailed list, right? Of like numbers, and it keeps them in track. ChatGPT did not do that. So it was losing track of where it was continuously. So I had to ask it a number of times and like, okay, which step are we in now? Because every time that it creates a list for itself, so a list like this, for example, it will not be numbered. It will not put these things in like a code bracket to make them stand out more. It will just be normal text. So I found it in general more difficult to navigate. And it will never number any of these. So it wouldn't give you a list of actual numbers. So you would just write out the thing that you wanted to do. And even when it did that, it doesn't logically come to the conclusion of like, okay, we need now to continue in the next step, because I was a couple of steps in, it already suggested, should I start building? And I'm like, no. What are the steps that we need to take? Where are we currently in the workflow? And it was like, okay, yes, we should now continue with this point. So I had to guide it instead of it guiding me, which was, to be honest, surprising, because I expected the new ChatGPT model to be like, especially because it's meant to reason more, to be better than Gemini 2.5 Pro, but that was not the experience. So what we've done so far was far more enjoyable and better aligned, because when we finished building the PRD with the product owner or the product manager, it immediately told us that, okay, the best next step to take is with the UX expert and defining your UI and UX experience. And then, in parallel, you can do the architect. ChatGPT didn't tell me any of that. It ended with, do you want me to continue building your application? And I'm like, no. Where should I now continue, Mr. Product Manager? And it pointed me to the architect instead of pointing me to the UX expert. So it did things a bit the other way around. Just my experience though, so other models might fare differently or better. And to be honest, I found 2.5, so Gemini 2.5 Pro, to be pretty good in terms of its structure, its reasoning, and code quality is okay. But again, when we define everything, so far I found the Gemini 2.5 Pro to be very good for designing the app. So everything that has to do with like, the brief, the PRD, the like general documentation, right? All of the task breakup and whatnot. That is really good. And when we get to the point of like, we need the developer to actually start putting things together, we could just choose a different model, right? And let a model that's more specialized in just writing code do that, right? Because we already have the plan and we're not expecting a lot of reasoning to happen during these steps, right? So where am I now? So we created something last week. Yes. So we went to Lovable and we asked it like the thing that we want, and it generated this mockup for us. Now, this mockup does like not have any sign up. How do you call it, screens, but that's fine. I mean, these are going to be quite basic and we don't really need a whole bunch for that, as long as we have the design language. So what I did is I took screenshots of these and provided them to the UX expert. I also, in the code here, I just copied all of the content that's inside of the tailwind.config file, because this basically has all of our like CSS, right? That's what it comes down to. So Tailwind already has, of course, like certain classes and whatnot, but it also defines, just like we would do in CSS, all of the different styles. So it will define like the text, the line heights, the shadows, the borders, colors, and everything. It didn't create a dark and light mode, but that's okay. We can just start with just deploying our like light mode, and then after that we can create dedicated design for the dark mode and add it. It would be a relatively minor change. So yeah, that's what I've provided already, and it basically took all of this information that I gave it here. It was like, okay, great, and it created the configuration. So it created the assets or the design assets, and it asked me to add the screenshots that I've taken into the project, which I did. and it created a whole UI styling guide. So this one has basically the different screens, how they should look like, the theming, and you name it. So this is quite good, right? And that's it. So to end, it was also like, okay, you can basically continue with building your app with the developer. And I was like, okay, great. So what should I continue with the architect, because we didn't create any architecture documents yet, and it very correctly says, okay, the role of the UX expert is to provide the design, and it's like, okay, according to the PRD document, the project plan specifies the parallel handoff. So basically, you can do the UX and the architecture at the same time, right? If you could also do multiple agents at once. But again, we're taking it one step at a time. So we finished the UX part. Now we're going to continue with the architecture part. So we're going to select the architect here. And if I just want to follow the process as clearly as possible. So if we go to the PRD, remember that we had a prompt for the UX and a prompt for the architect, right? So the handoff for the UX expert, this was the design. And it's like, okay, this is the prompt that you can use to summon the UX expert and tell us what to do, and hand off to the architect, which we're going to do now. All right. So at the beginning of the architecture phase, use the following prompt: activate the architect. Your task is to define the initial database schema, technical architecture for humble words, MVP, review these documents, right? So the brief and the PRD based on the requirements, you can do all of this, right? So we're going to copy we're just going to copy all of that. I'm going to start a new chat, right? Just to clear our context window, so we have fresh memory to work with, and we are not bound to the memory of the previous session. I'm going to paste this all in here. So we have selected, we have to select the architect. Yeah, I started the new chat. I forgot about that. So yeah, we've put all of this in. We're still using Gemini 2.5 Pro, and let's get going. Okay, so it's looking for a YAML file, which is a configuration file that we don't have because we don't have any architecture in place yet. So all we have is basically describing documents that describe our application, more on a project and conception level, not in actual configuration. So yeah, our architect is called Winston. Great. As per my activation protocol, here are available. Yeah, so this is what I really like about the Gemini 2.5 Pro. It really makes everything very, very clear. It follows the steps also very clearly, which ChatGPT 5 did not do, very surprisingly. So yeah, it says, okay, what can I do for you? So we need to create backend as well as front-end architecture. So it's asking, do you want to create backend architecture? Brownfield. Brownfield, again, is for existing projects, which we are not doing. We're doing a new project. So it says create front-end project, front-end architecture, all full stack. So we want full stack. So full stack just means backend and front-end. That's exactly what we want. Doc out is going to be documenting the destination files. Okay, so no, we want full stack. So that's going to be option number 5. I will now proceed with the task outline. In the handoff, I will review the required documents. Okay, good. So it read the brief as well as the PRD, and it is introducing itself again, which is fine. Now let's get your request to define how have completed the task as requested. I have created a new document with architecture, but which will be currently open most probably. So we go to architecture. Okay, it already has defined a whole bunch of things. Not too much though, but there is already some in here. So this document outlines the initial database schema, security policy, as well as system architecture for Humble Words, MVP. So this is version 0. Great. I also really like how they like already pre-designed how it should document things, because it's very clear, very concise, but detailed enough so that no like information is lost during handover between all of the different agents. So it's talking about the SQL structure. Sure, that's fine. So so now what it's writing is basically the SQL script that will need to be run on Supabase so that we can create all of these different tables and have their links so that we can actually have our application working. Followers, subscription, okay. Then we have row-level security. So these are going to be policies that will be applied to our database so that we know that only the people who are authorized to read and edit specific fields or rows in our database can actually do that, which is fine. Again, so all of this is, I mean, if you don't know SQL, you can ask it to explain some of these things for you. You can also just copy and paste all of these and like just go to ChatGPT online or like, Gemini online and ask it that, and it will explain it to you very well. I would advise to do this online instead of here so that you don't waste your credits on these types of discovery things. But it's good to get a good understanding of how this works for yourself. If you don't have the time or if you don't care to, feel free to just continue and just accept what it provides you. And here it basically tells you, so this creates a mermaid. This is why we got like the mermaid reader so that we can view this in a like a table, not a table, like an actual workflow document outside of the editing mode, which you can do by, actually no, it's not. No, no, no. Yeah, edit, do. Okay, so we're gonna close this one, close this one. Yeah, okay, press the wrong button. So this is the preview slide. So I'm just gonna make this a bit smaller. But this is like the rendered markdown file instead of this editable version. So you can see that we have actual, so this mermaid layout looks like this when you are in the reader mode. And we can close out of this. Okay. So let's continue. Okay, so all of that's fine. Actually, I just wanted to continue going through the device. Okay, that's fine. Now we want a full stack, so we're going to tell it that we want option 5. Okay, but it already got lost there, so exactly. So write the existing architecture on D with a new one based on different template, create a new separate architecture document, modify the existing architecture. Yeah, I would just modify the existing one. I think it got lost because I deleted and re-added everything that was there in the architecture document that it had created. My bad. Could you check the current information for the full stack app. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so what it did initially was just focused around database and not much else, to be honest. So uh, it still does need to add quite a lot more. Okay, so it's like, okay, add front-end architecture details, detail the API layers, detail the row level security policy section. Database. Okay, that's fine. Of course. Okay. So it says it created database enhancements, front-end architecture, back-end architecture, and these additions provide a clear, more detailed plan for both the front end and the back-end. Make document applied. Okay. So let's go through it very quickly because we do need to make sure that whatever it has provided, that this is actually the complete picture. So yeah, it's still talking about database schema first, which is fine. This was already here. And then we have the trigger to automatically update that timestamp, which is fine. So front-end architecture is like, okay, we knew we were going to use Next.js 14 plus, which is quite old, but okay. TypeScript component UI is going to be ChatCN UI built upon Redux. Okay. Styling is going to be Tailwind CSS, which is also fine. State management, 10-stack query. Yeah, okay, so these are for the React components, which is great. So directories, app components, lib, and validators. Backend architecture, yeah, the backend serverless. Okay, so serverless architecture based on Next.js, perfect. We have the API layer, which will be like the middle point of everything. We have data validation using Zod. So Zod is a library that just makes sure that all of our endpoints are somewhat secure, and it will catch any like known vulnerabilities, any like things that you're doing that are considered not secure, and it will tell you that when you try to build your application, which we will get to hopefully sometime soon. Backend services, so Superbase is going to provide the core infrastructure for the Postgres as well as user authentication. So it advised us to use Prisma, which is fine, but I didn't want to make things too complex with adding another SaaS into the mix that we have to manage. So I told it to not do that and just stick with Superbase by default. Security. So these are all the security policies which were already here. We have the Mermaid architecture document. It's fine, I guess. Okay, great. What is our next step? It seems to have kind of lost plot here a bit. I was just complimenting it about how it kept on track, and then it doesn't. But if this is something that you experience, feel free to create a new chat. So just close the chat, start a new chat, give it the same prompt for the architect. Just tell it that you already have an architecture document that you wanted to review, and then it can like start from zero again. Excellent, with the architecture defined and the wireframes in place. The next logical step is to move to from planning to implementation. I recommend we begin with project scaffolding and initial setup. This phase will create the foundational structure of our application, allowing us to start building features and solid base. Here's the proposed plan. So initialize the Next.js project. So initialize the project means that you're going to install Next.js from npm and initialize the project just like we did, for example, for Git init. So initialize the project inside of the folder. We do the same for Next.js, but Next.js will install all of the packages that it needs to actually run your project as like a whole. And it will also do the same for like making sure that we're using TypeScript, make sure that we use Tailwind CSS, that all of these are available as packages. Installing dependencies like Superbase, like ChatCN UI, like Zod, like 10-stack React queries, which was going to be handy for our backend for like our requests, because we're using it serverlessly. So we need something to manage all of our requests. Yeah, so all of this is going to be done manually. So setting up a Supabase database, so create one. It can do this for you, and we might as well employ MCP servers for that. But we already added context 7. Maybe we should just use that, but we'll see. We'll see. Configuration, configure environment, and it goes. I mean, the development of these tools is like so fast. I built a project not too long ago, and I did a lot of the things that are now happening through MCP servers and through APIs all manually, just to get everything set up. And nowadays, like even sign up, you just get redirected to the browser, you sign in, you get sent back to your development environment, and you continue, where before you had to get your keys and you had to put them in your environment variables and validate everything and do a couple of test calls just to make sure that actually works. So this is now already becoming so much more like refined as a developer experience. So it's really great to see, because it continuously lowering the bar for the people to be able to actually build things, which is amazing. So, initialize the next JS part. Okay, so configure environment, set up necessary environment variables, securely connect to your new Supabase instance, establish a directory structure, create the initial folder. Okay. Once these steps are complete, we will have a runnable, albeit empty project that is perfectly configured and ready for us to start building the first user story, which is user account creation. Shall I proceed with the generation? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So also the idea is, right, so we created, just to run through it. Maybe I'll do this using this beautiful diagram, right? So we started all the way here. We had the idea. We had the analyst like gather our information together and run us through some questions to further enhance our detailed brief. Out of the brief, right, we created our PRD. From the PRD, we had the product manager create the epics and the functional requirements and non-functional requirement document. From that point on, we moved to the UX, which we have, and now we're doing the architecture part, right? And when this is done, right, we will then actually start using AI to develop the application, right? So once we have in place what the architect is currently working on, there are already epics, there are tasks, right, which all have definitions, which we will also have the architect review just to make sure that there isn't anything in there that's currently missing, or some of the tasks are maybe incomplete or using a technology that we don't have in our architecture. And then we can basically continue with, so there is a QA that can do a bit of, how do you call it, some checks for you, which we can do, or we can skip. It really depends. And then we have the product owner, which can run a checklist to make sure that we have everything in place in order for us to start working. And based on that, if the documents are all aligned and everything is clear, then the planning phase is complete. And then it says here switch to IDE, but we're already there. You can just say, okay, the product owner can shard the document, so it will create smaller documents for all of the different epics and tasks and whatnot that we have. And then you can just basically tell the developer to start implementing. So like, okay, this is task 1. We select the like developer profile, and we're like, okay, execute this task. And it is like scripted. It has in its persona that it will look into the requirements. It will ask questions if anything is like not clear, but that should not be the case considering we've already done so much pre-planning for it. And once it's done, it will try to validate what it did, whether this aligns with the initial like described goals of the task itself. And then when it's completed, you can just tell it to move on to the next one. It will now proceed with scaffolding. Okay, so it wants to create. Okay, so it wants to run these scripts, which is okay, fine. Yeah. And by the way, so yes, I know. Mm, okay, so it's yeah. Okay, so what is running here? So it says here could not create a project name, humble words, because the naming is restrictions. So the restriction is that names no longer can no longer contain capital letters, so it has to be in lowercase letters. Um, Okay, so it finally caught on to that. So it appears a project initialization failed due to the npm naming restrictions. The project, okay. So I will work around this by creating a project in a temporary directory with a valid name, and then moving the generated files into our main project directory. It's like no, that's a very weird and strange way to do it. No, please just change the project name to humble words instead. Sure, but why is it switching now? Okay, I think it switched because it's doing the architecture, which is fine. Understood. I'll initialize the project with the lowercase name. Let's run. Yeah, okay. So what it's doing is running npx, so it's like deploying these different packages inside of the project, which is TypeScript, which we want to use, Tailwind, which again we want to use. ESLint is a linting library that will catch errors in your code as you write your code. So every time that you add something or the AI adds something, ESLint will already tell it that, okay, you forgot to close a function here, or your naming here is wrong, or you're missing an argument for your function or something like that, right? Which are like very, very common things that you do as a developer, and AI makes the same mistakes. So ESLint is really, really a lifesaver because it will flag all of these issues that you have in your code before you even try to run it. And it will also flag more things when you try to build it. So let's go. Would you like your code inside directory? So do you want to send no, follow? Yeah, do we want that to go inside of a source directory? Not really, to be honest. Would you like to use TurboPack? I'd prefer not. Would you like to use TurboPack? It's recommended. Mm, that's a good question. Do we want to use TurboPack? Let's do this. Why is using Turbo hack recommended. Okay, so I know that I don't want to use it, but we could. I'm just asking this question just to like clarify things for you watching this, just so that you. Oh, it's not allowing me to ask anything because it's waiting for the response. Okay, so let's go with the yeah. Okay, let's continue with the turbo pack, and I'll ask it in a bit, and it will explain to us why it is recommended. For I understand why it's recommended from the point of the AI, because it will help to get the app built faster. I generally try to avoid adding any dependencies into my build that I don't think are really necessary. So continue. Waiting for. We'll continue to poll. Yeah, okay. You don't need to continue polling. It's already done. Okay, so it's now going to go inside of the project folder, which okay, yeah, okay. So I understand what's happening. Yeah, that's fine. So all of our like documents basically are in here, so the docs and whatnot, and it has created a folder where the actual app will be created, which is fine. So it keeps everything a bit neater, and we don't have all of these documents kind of mingled with our project folders, which is perfectly fine. And it says great. The next did we get more models that we didn't have before? No, not really. Not really. We have a couple that are completely free to use. So GPT 4.1, but yeah, it's already a bit old. Okay, we'll stick with Sonnet. Okay, so what is it asking? So I already said yes to this, so it's going to install all of these packages. Yes, please go ahead. By the way, if you want to save yourself a lot of credits, you can also just ask it to give you all of the different commands, the terminal commands that need to be run in order for to do all of this like installation and configuration and whatnot, right? What does it say? Need to install the following package. Yeah, please continue. Okay, because now basically every single thing that is asking me, and I'm clicking yes, this is also a like request that is costing us credits. You can also ask it to provide you a full list of commands that you need to run in order for these to happen, and you can do this yourself, right? So you can just go into the command, run them one by one, and if one of them gives you an error, you can just copy the error and give it to the AI and tell it, okay, I ran this, I got this error, what should I do? But then at least it wouldn't cost you like credits for every single thing that it's trying to run. So here it's asking us a question. So it says, which color would you like to use as the base color? This is for platform quotation. Okay. We want to use gray, zinc, stone, slate. I'll go with neutral, I guess, for now. Something that we can always change later. Okay. And now we have our validators. Okay, and while we are going through this, it's also very important for you to understand that one of the reasons why we're doing this like on a live stream and why I like try to not like continue building a lot off stream is because every build is going to be different, right? So even if you're doing the exact same thing as myself, you might get different like recommendations. You might get slightly different answers. Even if I would run the same prompts twice, right? You've seen this as well when we did like the very basic Kanban board build, right? So we did ask different LLMs and they all came like with their own version of it. But even if you ask the same one, the same question, it will still deliver you most probably a slightly different end result. Yes, please go. So touch is just to create a file. So yeah. Okay, so it's creating basically the initial. We already spoke about the fact that we will need to set up secure environment variables. So these are basically your database URL, your database key, which you should never share with anyone. So anything that's inside the environment.local is considered secure information. And this is also something that we will not be providing to GitHub. So we will never upload this somewhere online. Server-based client, yes, okay. And if you look into the git ignore file, you will also see that there are plenty of things already excluded. So we will never send any of these to GitHub, including our environment variable file. So any file that starts with .env, which includes our environment.local, because it has the asterisks at the end. So it means that anything that comes after this is also included. We will not send out, which is very, very important. Yes. All right. So the Superbase or the Supabase client and server models are great, but these are for local use. So we will connect to like Superbase online, of course, because it's a SAAS, but there is a CLI, so a command line interface that we can use to test our database without connecting continuously to the online one. So we can basically develop and validate our database and authentication models and everything locally without having to do this like through the actual Supabase database. This will give us two benefits. One is that we can do it faster and we don't have to wait for like the online servers to like respond and whatnot. But secondly is that we won't introduce all kinds of testing data into our like production database where we have to continuously like reset it or remove everything from there before we actually start using our product. Um, yeah, please continue. I don't know why you wouldn't continue. So make directory libtype, libtype. Yeah, go ahead. And again, all of these all of these things that it's doing now isn't really architecture. So these are things that you need to configure before you can actually start building. It's great that it's doing all of this on our behalf, which is really amazing. But again, you can also just ask it like, what are the commands that I need to run in order to set up everything? And it will give you like a very long document with all of these commands, and it will explain to you briefly what they all do. And you can just run these yourself and save yourself a lot of credits by not having to run these through the AI model. Yeah, I really wonder whether the architect is like, although it wouldn't. I just wonder why it changed automatically to Claude Sonnet 4 when it started architecting. I don't know whether this is a GitHub setting. I'm assuming that it would be. So okay, it seems that we're done, or at least the agent thinks that we're done, because npm run dev just means that it wants to run the server, so the backend server, uh, as a development environment locally, so that we can actually launch and see our application. So we're going to say allow. Most probably we'll have some errors, which we do. which is fine. This is a development experience. So most probably when you run this the first time yourself, you will also have some errors. And for the AI, it's no different. So it says, okay, let's cd into the folder, which I think we already did. Okay. Let's see. Maybe we were in the wrong folder. So, okay, yeah, it's running, which is great. So it says, okay, we need to visit localhost 1000. Perfect. The Next.js development server is now running successfully. Let me create a simple SQL file containing the database schema. Easy to, okay. Please do. So that means that we can go to our browser, and we can go to localhost. So we're going to say goodbye to our local Kanban, localhost, and 3000 is the port. Is it not running anymore? Is that where we're at? Oh, okay, it exited out of it. Okay, never mind. We'll get to that. Yeah. So this Control C is basically a command to kill the process. So it's now doing the whole database. So it's building the whole database schema, which if we look in here, you will see the schema that is defined for Supabase. So again, it has all of the tables. So it says create table public profile. So this is for the profiles. And these are all of the items that are going to be in the database. So we have a unique ID key that will be automatically generated for each individual entry. We have a name, which is text, and it has to be unique, and it cannot be empty, so it cannot be null. Display name, which is also text. Bio, which is a text. Created at, which is a timestamp, which is generated automatically. And like this, we continue for posts, for spaces, for post spaces, for allows, for likes, for subscriptions, for reports, and we will build onto this database as we continue. So as we require more information to be stored in our database, we will basically create new migrations for the database that will include additions or modifications to the existing database structure. So where were we? So it created that. Perfect. Let me create the README file for the project with setup instructions. Yeah, this is very, very important. So the setup files is so here. So basically it says, okay, if you want, so if I'm going to put this on GitHub, right? And let's say you go to that GitHub repository and you like fork this code or like download it to run it locally. The README file should tell you what you need in order to run this locally for yourself, right? So here it says, okay, you need Node.js 18 plus, you need a Supabase account. Optionally, you can have this. It will tell you all of the keys or all of the environment variables that you would need, what kind of commands you need to run. But because we have a config file, the user who's going to copy this is basically only going to need to run a single command, and it should already give it everything that it needs. So does it include the command here, I wonder? So it says, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. No, that's good. So it starts here. So it says, okay, installation, just npm install. So the npm install will basically just look through the configuration file and already get all of the packages that are required for this application. And then it's like, okay, you need these environment variables if you really want to use it. And then it's like, okay, you have to create all of that, and then you can run npm dev, and you should be good to go. So it removed some old stuff that was in here and replaced it with an updated documentation regarding the tech stack, the key features for the MVP, the architecture, and everything else. Cool. So project setup complete. What we've built. Next.js application, dependencies installed, project structure, environment configuration. So we have a template for environment variables. We have documentation. The next step is create a Supabase project and configure the database using the SQL, okay, update with your Supabase credentials, start building the first user story. Yeah, so this is going to be very important. This is where we would switch from the architect to the actual developer. So we have a dev that can do this, but we can also do the pre-flight checks before we get there. So the foundation is solid, ready for development. As the architect, I've ensured that the project follows the technical architecture outline. All necessary dependencies are installed and properly configured. The database schema and security policies are ready for deployment. And the project architecture, the project structure follows Next.js and React best practices, which is great. Would you like me to proceed with setting up authentication components for the first user story, or do you have any questions about the current setup? Mm. That is a good question. And I wonder. Okay, so I'm gonna pause here for a moment and I'm gonna end the stream and we're gonna pick up right here. Yeah, I'd never asked it why it recommends a turbo pack. We'll get to that in a bit. Because there are a couple of things that I would like to do beforehand. So it's, I mean, this is of course, like a logical continuation point, which is still a part of the architecture, which is fine. We're going to continue there a bit later today during our next planned stream, which again will start a bit earlier than usual, just so that we can continue for a bit longer and get more done. Yeah, okay, great. So we're going to call it quits. We have basically half of the backend in place, which is great. The authentication uses Supabase, so it's better to do everything that it already asked us to do before we continue with that, because otherwise there's like no way to validate it at all if we didn't already have anything set up for Supabase itself. So that's why I want to continue in the next episode, because we're gonna actually do that so that you can follow along and like see the entire process. So yeah, see you then. Thank you very much for watching and joining, and we'll see you on the next stream a bit later today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.